Hey learners, welcome to StoryPath English. Before we jump in, hit like and subscribe for fun, easy English lessons. Let's boost your listening, vocabulary, and speaking, one story at a time. Let's begin. Nestled between towering mountains, there was once a small village where the air carried the scent of pine, and the trees stretched high, brushing the clouds. The people were gentle and kind, always ready with a smile or a helping hand. Yet, this village was unlike any other. It was steeped in silence. Voices never rose above a whisper, if they rose at all. The quiet wasn't forced. It simply was like the mist that clung to the peaks each morning. In this hushed world lived a girl named Lena, just 12 years old. Her eyes, large and brown like warm tea, sparkled with curiosity and kindness. She moved through the village with a quiet grace, her footsteps soft against the earth. Lena was bright, quick to solve problems, eager to learn, but she never spoke. Not a single word had ever passed her lips. The villagers didn't mind. They adored her. Old Marta, who baked bread with herbs from the forest, would pat Lena's hand and slip her a warm roll. The carpenter, Tove, carved her little wooden birds that she'd carry in her pockets. They all knew Lena's silence wasn't shyness or fear. It was just her way. She listened, she watched, and somehow she understood things others missed. One crisp morning, as golden light spilled over the mountains, Lena sat by the stream that wound through the village. She dipped her fingers into the cool water, watching ripples spread. A leaf drifted past, caught in the current, and her eyes followed it until it vanished around a bend. She tilted her head, as if hearing something in the silence, a secret the village hadn't yet shared. For though the village was peaceful, there was a mystery woven into its stillness. Why did no one speak? What held their voices back? Lena didn't know. Not yet. But her big, tea-brown eyes held a spark, a hint that she might one day unravel it. In a place where words were rare, Lena's silence wasn't strange. It was a thread in the village's quiet tapestry, waiting to be pulled. Lena's silence wasn't a flaw. It was a choice. As a baby, her cries had rung through the village like any other child's, sharp and demanding. But when she turned 3, the words stopped. No tantrums, no babbling, just a quiet that settled over her like a soft cloak. Her mother, wide-eyed with worry, carried her to doctors in nearby towns. They poked and prodded, listened to her steady heartbeat, and shrugged. She's healthy, they declared. She just doesn't want to speak. The villagers gave her a name, the Silent One. It stuck like dew on grass. Some whispered it with unease, their eyes darting away as if her silence carried a hidden weight. Others watched her with curiosity, wondering what thoughts danced behind those big, tea-brown eyes. But Lena didn't mind the whispers or the stares. She met them with a smile, small, warm, and steady, and went about her days. She had a way of being useful without words. When old Tomas struggled with his cane on the uneven path, Lena was there, offering her arm. She'd chase after the baker's runaway pup or perch on a stone wall, tossing crumbs to the birds that flocked to her. The dogs knew her, too, wagging their tails as she scratched behind their ears. Her hands spoke where her voice didn't, gentle, certain, kind. And somehow, people understood her. When she tilted her head or raised a brow, they knew what she meant. A nod meant yes, a quick shake no. If she tugged your sleeve and pointed, you'd follow, trusting she'd seen something worth seeing, a flower blooming early or a hawk circling above. Her silence wasn't empty. It was full of meaning, a language of looks and gestures that wove her into the village's quiet rhythm. One evening, as the moon hung low over the mountains, Lena sat on her porch, tracing shapes in the dirt with a stick. A villager passed by and paused. "You're a mystery, silent one," he said softly. Lena glanced up, her smile flickering like moonlight on water. She didn't need words to answer. Her presence was enough. A shadow fell over the village one day when the river, the lifeblood of their quiet world, stopped flowing. Its gentle rush, once a constant hum, turned to stillness. The river fed their crops, filled their buckets, and sustained their fish. Without it, panic crept in. Voices, usually hushed, rose in sharp bursts. Villagers shouted over each other, arguing about what to do. Some wept, clutching empty pails, fear etching lines into their faces. But Lena didn't join the clamor. Each morning, as the sun peeked over the mountains, she sat by the cracked, dry riverbed. She didn't pace or cry. She watched, the way the earth lay bare, the way the wind stirred the dust. She waited, her tea-brown eyes tracing patterns no one else saw. She listened, not to the villagers' noise, but to the silence beneath it, where nature whispered its secrets. 3 days passed. Then Lena stood. She picked up a stick and crouched in the dirt. With steady hands, she drew the winding river, the jagged mountains, the wide sky. At the end, she scratched a rough shape, a large, hulking rock. The villagers gathered, peering over her shoulder. A hush fell as they studied her lines. An old man, his voice trembling, broke the silence. "I know this rock. It's up the mountain. Could be blocking the stream." Hope flickered. They followed him, Lena at their side, climbing the steep path. There it was, a massive boulder, lodged in the river's throat, choking its flow. Sweat beaded on their brows as they heaved together, muscles straining, until the rock rolled free with a groan. A trickle started, then a rush. Water spilled over the stones, sparkling in the sunlight. The river breathed again. The villagers cheered, their voices loud for once. But Lena only smiled, small and quiet like always. Back by the riverbed, they looked at her differently. Her silence hadn't been weakness. It had been strength. While they shouted, she'd listened. While they panicked, she'd seen. The girl who said nothing had given them everything. In the village's stillness, Lena's quiet power shone brighter than any words. The villagers stood by the flowing river, its waters glinting like a promise kept. Their eyes turned to Lena, wide with wonder. How had she known? How had a girl who never spoke unraveled the mystery that stumped them all? Whispers rippled through the crowd, questions hanging in the crisp mountain air. Old Marta, the village's eldest, stepped forward. Her face, lined like the bark of an ancient tree, softened with a smile. She listened, she said, her voice steady as the earth. She listened when we were too busy speaking. The words sank in, simple yet heavy, and the villagers fell quiet, gazing at Lena. Lena met their stares with her gentle smile, her tea-brown eyes calm and clear. She didn't speak, never had, but in that moment, no one needed her to. Something stirred in their chests, a warmth, a knowing. Her silence wasn't empty. It carried a strength they'd overlooked, a wisdom woven into her stillness. The day wore on, sunlight dancing on the reborn river. The villagers went back to their tasks, tending crops, fetching water, but they moved differently now. Slower, quieter. They glanced at Lena as she sat by the stream, tossing pebbles into the current, and they understood. She hadn't needed words to save them. Her actions, her watching, her waiting, her drawing, had spoken louder than their shouts ever could. That evening, as the sky bruised purple over the mountains, they gathered around a fire. No one argued or raised their voices. Instead, they shared nods, smiles, a pat on the shoulder. Lena sat among them, her presence a quiet thread tying them together. They'd always prized their hushed ways, but now they saw what she'd known all along. Silence could hold power, truth, even love. The lesson settled deep. Words weren't the only way to speak. A look could guide, a gesture could heal, and a girl who said nothing could teach a village everything. In the flicker of the firelight, Lena's smile glowed, a message without sound, understood by all. After the river flowed again, the village wasn't the same. The change wasn't loud or sudden. It crept in like dawn over the mountains. People still spoke, their voices soft as ever, but now they paused more. They listened to the trill of birds weaving through the pines, to the wind rustling leaves, to the unspoken in a friend's glance. The air felt lighter, as if the silence Lena carried had seeped into them all. Lena remained wordless, her tea-brown eyes bright and steady. She didn't need to change. She'd always understood what they were only now learning. The villagers began to see her differently, not as the silent one, but as something more. She became their heart, a quiet anchor in the stillness they'd come to cherish. When sorrow struck, they sought her out. A farmer whose crops had withered, a mother missing her son who'd left for the city. They'd find Lena by the river or under a tree. She never offered advice or platitudes. She'd just sit beside them, her presence a calm pool amid their storm. Sometimes she'd rest a hand on theirs, or tilt her head to catch their gaze. That was all. No words, no rush, just her there, steady and warm. And somehow, it was enough. The farmer would sigh, his shoulders easing. The mother would wipe her tears, a faint smile breaking through. Lena's silence didn't fix their problems, but it held space for them, like the mountains cradling the village. Her quiet wasn't empty. It was full of care, a voice without sound that reached where words couldn't. One spring day, as pink blossoms drifted from the trees, a child asked, "Why doesn't Lena talk?" Old Marta, kneading dough nearby, chuckled. "She doesn't need to, little one. Her heart speaks for her." The child nodded, as if that made perfect sense. And it did. Lena's silence wasn't a lack. It was a gift. She taught them to hear the world, to feel each other, to trust the unspoken. In a village once defined by quiet, she showed them its truest power. The voice of the heart, louder than any word. Sparkle's moral of the story. Sometimes, silence is stronger than words. When you truly listen, you understand more. In Lena's quiet village, where voices rarely rose, her wordless presence proved that strength doesn't always shout. Silence can hold wisdom, mend hearts, and reveal truths that clamor overlooks. By listening to nature, to each other, to the stillness within, the villagers found a deeper way to connect. Lena showed them that understanding blooms not from what's said, but from what's heard in the spaces between. Thanks for watching StoryPath English. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Here's a quick tip to learn English fast. Practice speaking every day, even just 5 minutes. It builds confidence and fluency. See you in the next video. Keep learning, keep shining.